Hello PICA fans, welcome back to the playoffs. Today, we are going to be looking at the match between the Sequim Malamars and Shamrock Snovers. My name is Bob and Fishy, and I'm joined by...
Hey guys, it's Matt, coach of the Washington Red Shells, and this guy's going to be doing a lot of these narrations.
Yep, I'm here for most of them, but that's okay.
You probably already heard 3 of them.
Anyways, today we are going to be looking at this match. This is the Sinnoh, right?
Yeah, Sinnoh Championships, so the semifinals.
And this is going to be a really good match. This is the 3rd match between these two guys this season, so they know each other very, very well.
Yeah, Andy won the first one, Brian won the second one, and let's see who's going to win this 3rd one.
Now, if we're looking at teams, we look at Brian Duffy's team here. He's got his best pal, the Manaphy there. He brings that to most of his games. Very, very dangerous water type.
Very much so.
We've got a Darmanitan, one of the most dominant physical attacking Pokemon in all Pokemon, really.
Well, I wouldn't say all Pokemon. I'd say it's been pretty good in PICA. Most people run a Choice Scarf, and if he runs a Choice Scarf, he's actually able to outspeed like the Noivern. So I think that'd be a pretty good set.
Next up, we've got Ampharos, which is Brian's Mega. So almost certainly Mega Ampharos. There's a couple of different sets that he could be running. Maybe like a Rest Talk, potentially Agility.
My bet's on Agility.
So definitely a dangerous mon. Next up, we've got Druddigon. Now, Druddigon is a very reliable Stealth Rock, Setter-Upper, Glare, all that good stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
If it takes a neutral hit, it's going to take a decent amount from it, because it doesn't have the best bulk, if I'm being honest.
Hold up, you just got all robot-y.
Ah, damn it.
Wait, hold up.
What I was basically saying is Druddigon does not have the best defenses, so if it takes a strong neutral hit, it's not going to take it that well. That's basically what I said.
But if it takes a physical hit, it could potentially have that Rocky Helmet and Rough Skin do some big recoil damage to its opponent. Diggersby is obviously going to be a prime candidate for that, if it goes for like a U-turn or something.
I think Skarmory is probably going to be the better switch in the Diggersby.
That's true. Speaking of Skarmory, we've got a Skarmory. Very good spike setupper. Potentially a defogger if it wants to do that. Obviously going to have very good healing in the form of Roost. And just going to be a really annoying thing all around for any sort of physical threats.
Could potentially have Whirlwind for things like a Calm Mind Sylveon or a Swords Dance Diggersby. So
that's going to be something to watch out for. And last but not least, Porygon 2, Brian's MVP.
The MVP. It is actually the league MVP, because even though I'm keeping track of kills for the playoffs, it's not. I'm not going to count that towards who's the actual MVP. The end of season MVP is Porygon, and yeesh, it's been doing a lot.
It's absolutely disgustingly bulky. It has reliable recovery, great ways to slow things down, and can just kind of poke at stuff until it dies. This thing is absolutely brutal. But that said,
the best way to take it out. Yeah, the best way to take it out is to have a strong physical attacker or Toxic Stall it.
So that said, let's go ahead and check out what Robotnik decided to bring to this match. First off, we've got Espeon. Now, Espeon has all sorts of interesting things that it can potentially do. Calm Mind's an idea. Baton Pass. It's always got that magic bounce that you got to keep an eye on. So setting up hazards, not going to be the easiest thing to do. However, Druddigon can set up rocks against it, thanks to the Mold Breaker ability.
I'd probably imagine it has Hidden Power Fire for that Skarmory, which is most likely going to be the thing that switches in against it, or possibly also Porygon 2, but then again, there's also Psyshock.
Next up, we've got Noivern. Now, Noivern is very, very fast. If there's one way to describe this thing, fast is definitely the word.
I believe it's either 122 or 123 speed. I can't remember.
Fairly certain it's 123, which means it's going to be outspeeding everything on the Snovers team, unless it's potentially Scarfed or Magnetons or something. But generally speaking, going to be the fastest thing on the field. Definitely a huge threat. It has very high power stabs, Draco Meteor, and Hurricane. Now, Hurricane, a little bit shaky accuracy, but high power nonetheless. Could potentially do some big damage.
Not to mention it has a good coverage move in Flamethrower to knock out all those pesky steel types. And lastly, just good initiative in U-turn, as well as a just strong move in Hyper Voice that's good for hitting things neutrally for the most part.
Plus, it also has the Infiltrator ability if it wants to, meaning that Substitute isn't going to be a good way to deal with this thing.
Yes, of course.
Or potentially Frisk. Both of those are actually really good abilities, especially in League format. You want to be able to scout your opponent really, really well with that Noivern.
Yeah, so it's more of knowing whether or not your opponent tends to bring sub or not, or you want that information about what item it normally has.
So that's going to be really, really interesting to see what set Andy decides to bring with that. Anyway, moving on, we've got Volcanion. Now, Volcanion has been one of Robotnik's go-to guys for this league. He brings it to most of his matches, and it does.
And honestly, it only does subpar results. I think it's currently 9-9. I think.
But still, if you're gonna feel comfortable bringing that, KD doesn't always tell the complete story. If something provides enough utility, then even if it doesn't necessarily get the knockouts, if you're able to put pressure on your opponent with it, then that's all you need from some Pokemon. And
I mean, fair enough, but I kind of would have expected something better just because it is a prime sweeper, but that's beside the point.
Anyway, Steam Eruption going to be very, very dangerous. It hits Darmanitan super effectively, can burn everything else. And Fire Blast evens things out, hits that Skarmory. Basically, this thing's going to be dangerous just with its stabs alone. Plus, you factor in Water Absorb, meaning that Manaphy is not going to be able to throw Scalds at it. Now, of course, Manaphy could potentially be carrying like an HP Ice or something. Or, sorry, HP Electric. But,
yeah, there you go.
But that's not Stab, and it's kind of low base power.
Volcanion's pretty bulky itself, so it probably will take the hit. So that means things like Porygon 2 might need to belt a lot of the damage, which means that Porygon 2 actually has a lot of weight on the shoulder because it has to take hits from both Espeon, from three things: Espeon, Noivern, and Volcanion. So it's going to be taking a lot of damage this game.
Yeah, so even one misplay could really, really cost him. Next up, we've got Sylveon. Now, Sylveon is a great all-around Pokemon. Could potentially be like a spec set, Cleric, Wish support, sort of a combination of Cleric and Wish support if you want to do that. It just has great moves all around and stuff like Hyper Voice, Hyper Voice, right?
Yeah, it's Hyper Voice.
And going to be able to hit, again, another Pokemon that can hit past subs, so Substitute is not going to be any sort of option for Duffy. He's going to know that going in, but still, having your options limited, never fun. And of course, Sylveon can do a lot, potentially even Baton Pass, it can do that. So, definitely going to see a lot of utility there. And of course, Fairy typing, never bad.
Mm-hmm.
Next, sorry?
Why am I forgetting words? Sorry, I was going to say something. I most likely would think this thing is going to be some sort of like either probably Wish Baton Pass sort of thing to try and heal up the rest of his team and just try and get some good initiative. Oh, and I also forgot to mention, because this probably wasn't mentioned in any of the other playoff videos, but the reason that you didn't see a fourth playoff match for the quarterfinals is because Socrates actually got sick, so we had to have a forfeit, so that's why Brian is here without winning a match.
That it is. Moving on,
Did you happen to mention that in any? Did you happen to mention that in any of the other quarterfinal videos?
I don't think I did. I think we recorded them all before that happened.
All right. Well, it's good to get that thing and get that announced then.
Okay. So next up, we've got Diggersby. I'm not gonna say it. Not gonna say it.
Don't do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Diggersby, very powerful physical attacker, could potentially be Scarfed, Bandied, Life Orb. Really anything, honestly. This thing is an absolute beast. And looking at things, has a pretty darn good matchup against Duffy's team. Earthquake.
Well, I don't know. He does have the Skarmory that can take on Diggersby pretty fine, and there's going to be some damage dealt from the recoil from touching Dredagon, so I'm not sure if the matchup is as good as it looks, but it is pretty good for revenging some of the sweepers.
Definitely. And of course, Drudigon is usually going to be used as some sort of lead. So if it gets some damage put on it early, a couple of earthquakes it could potentially take it out. Skarmory, not as amazing a switch in just because of the Volcanion lurking in the background there. So
that's fair.
So definitely going to have to watch out for Diggersby late game. And last but not least, we've got Gligar, man. Anyway,
Gligar. I call it Gligar.
Anyway, the little pink guy on the far right. So he is going to be Eviolite almost certainly. Stealth Rocks.
Oh, duh, definitely.
Defog support, really good for Volcanion and
Noivern.
Yeah, there you go. Definitely, those guys are definitely going to appreciate some defog support. So, definitely a good brain. Robotnik has had trouble having consistent defog support in the past. So, having something that he kind of feels comfortable with is going to be good.
Definitely. And for the most part, Gligar should be able to take on most of Brian's mons pretty well, although there are two in particular who can probably take out the Gligar, that being Manaphy, because it's a water type and it's really strong, and Porygon 2, which normally runs Beam, so that's probably going to take it out in 1 or 2 hits.
So he's definitely going to have to play carefully with it, but overall, definitely a solid bring, definitely something that he can make use of.
Mm-hmm.
So, anything else you'd like to add before we hop into this battle, or should we just go for it?
Well, if you can see in the chat right there, apparently whoever wins this is going to kill me, so we'll see how that goes.
That's true, dead Matt. Okay, so let's go ahead and start right up. So we see Drudigon as the lead for the Shamrock Snovers. That's pretty predictable.
And we got a Noivern Frisk lead for the for Robotnik over here.
And we're going to see those leftovers, which means this isn't going to be some sort of Life Orb Drudigon, which they have been known to run.
It appears that it's going to be more like more bulky in that sense, where it's going to actually be able to take hits repeatedly, since it now can heal back up. So Draco comes in and does some pretty good damage, possibly looking Specs.
We actually found out it is Specs. When Porygon 2 switched in, it traced the Frisk of Noivern, and shows us that...
I'm blind. I'm sorry. I am blind.
No,
I am blind.
Yeah, it was able to trace that Frisk and just gain that information on the Noivern. Now, of course, the Calc would have told him that as well. But anyway, Porygon 2 went for the Thunder Wave there and got it bounced right back in its face. That's going to be super annoying for Porygon. But at the same time, that also means that Toxic stalling the Porygon 2 is no longer going to be an option.
Yeah, and then here we see that Drudigon just got taken out by S-Bound by 2 Psychics. Probably not Brian's smartest move.
Definitely going to be something that he's going to be looking back at and saying, man, I wish I hadn't done that. But that does show us that this is just straight up offensive Espeon. Now, we see the Darmanitan come in and just absolutely light something up with Flare Blitz. Robotnik doesn't really have a great switch.
Destroying it.
So in comes Volcanion, going to try to eat up a Flare Blitz, but Brian switches things up.
But he takes a Rock Slide.
Yep, so this
Apparently
is actually...
Scarf.
Nope, not Scarfed. That's actually very, very valuable information for Robotnik later, though. He's going to see that this thing is probably a Life Orb set, Sheer Force Life Orb, going to be hiding the Life Orb. But that does mean that Noivern is going to be a viable option to try and revenge kill this thing.
Though it does have to cost him his Gligar.
That's true. However, that he also did knock out the Drudigon, which was very likely the Stealth Rock lead. So even though there could be some spikes set up by the Skarmory, generally speaking, the defog is not going to be as important as it could have been if Drudigon was still alive.
Fair enough, but if that was a special defensive Gligar, that would have been good for something like Mega Frost. Anyway, Noivern comes in, and Porygon 2 has to eat another Draco Meter, and unfortunately gets paralyzed, so it cannot recover off the damage, and thus Porygon goes down.
So that is a huge, huge blow to the Shamrock Snovers. Now, of course, it's always unfortunate to see paralysis kind of cost you a Mon, but in this case, he was the one who went for the Thunder Wave, so, kind of getting bit in the butt by his own strategy there. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and see...
Yes, you can pause while we're talking about this. You can pause so we can explain our thoughts.
True that. So Ampharos comes in.
It felt kind of.
Sorry.
It felt kind of weird to continually talk while things are kept going on. So I think it's best if we just pause.
True. Okay. Anyway, the Mega Ampharos is going to come in and go for the Volt Switch. Takes 53% from that Psychic. Obviously not something that it wants to do. But he is finally getting some damage on this Espeon. Now in comes the Manaphy. Takes some more Psychic
huge damage from that Psychic. But is able to kill off Espeon with a Signal Beam.
So Espeon finally goes down, but it really did ravage the Shamrock Snovers team.
Yeah, and with Porygon 2 down, nothing can come in to take Noivern's hits, so something has to go down right here and now.
Now,
and it looks like it's going to be the Mega Ampharos, looks like.
Yep. Now, Mega Ampharos is so slow, it probably wasn't going to be doing a ton more from this point on anyway. Sylveon is still waiting in the wings.
Probably could have taken a few hits from Volcanion.
True, but it's still not a great option because Sylveon is still waiting in the wings. Anyways, obviously Noivern does not want to stay in against Skarmory, so in comes Volcanion. We see some spikes go
that
up.
Could potentially mean it's Choice Specs Noivern. Oh wait, we frisked it. Never mind.
We know that. Anyway, we see some spikes go up, but it might be too little too late in that regard. Brave Bird does a bit of damage to the Volcanion, but down it goes. Volk sitting here at 7%, which means no matter what Duff does here, he's going to have to knock something out, going to have to leave his Mon vulnerable to being revenge killed by Noivern. And
honestly, Noivern kind of cleaned up the rest of the game since everything's at low health and enough where Noivern just kills it.
So as long as he doesn't miss, this is going to be game. We see the frisk on the Darmanitan.
Actually, he has Hyper Voice, as you can see right here, so he wouldn't have missed anyway.
Boomburst has 90 accuracy.
Why did I say Hyper? I think I said Hyper Burst, so I meant Boom Burst.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's going to be Noivern cleaning up this game. Absolutely devastating in its power and speed. Now, if there was one thing that I look back on in this match as being sort of the questionable move that led to everything kind of going down the way it is, the choice to put Life Orb on Darmanitan as opposed to Choice Scarf really came back to hurt Duffy.
It was probably initially to try and get more damage on the Gligar, which was the obvious switch-in, but in the end, maybe the speed looked like to be more important.
Definitely. It was one of those situations where it gave him an early lead, but made him unable to capitalize on it late game. Noivern had enough speed, knew how to use it, and just was able to come in and do all sorts of work.
One thing about Brian's team, maybe he should have found a way to somehow fit in Klefki. I understand that it's kind of hard to fit in Klefki against Robotnik's team, but Klefki could have been something that could have handled Noivern at least decently well. I know Flamethrower is a thing, but after Thunder Waving the Noivern, it definitely would have crippled Noivern as a threat.
That's true. Without Noivern as his kind of go-to guy, obviously Diggersby is still waiting in the wings, but it would have made this team a lot easier to deal with, just not getting poked at by the Snowbird.
Potentially instead of Dredagon, it could have been a Klefki, because Dredagon really didn't do that much in this game.
No, it was actually really interesting. He wasn't carrying the Sucker Punch, or at least didn't feel comfortable using it against the Espeon, which would have given him a lot of damage really early on.
Perhaps the Dredagon was more for a Feraligatr if it ended up coming, but who knows.
Anyway, that was a 20-turn battle. Robotnik and Sexy is going to be moving on to the PICA Finals, so congratulations to him. And with that, we are going to bid you adieu. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you're enjoying all of the PICA PICA playoff content that we're uploading. And we'll see you next time, guys.
And yep, see you guys later.